immigrations are actually taking off jobs from the U.S.?
Oh, the United States is going to break up in 2 months or 3 months. They're going to go bankrupt. It's going to go bust. The United States is a country of immigrants.
Good day. My name is Muhammad Ihsan, and I'm here delighted to be with Professor Naser Tahboub from the School of National Studies at the University of Jordan. So, Professor, for now we're going to talk about the U.S. election again. And I would like to ask about the major differences between the Democrats and the Republicans. Throughout history, there has been changes in policies. However, for the upcoming election, what are the major differences?
Yes, we will talk about this election in particular. And, during the last 50 years, the number one issue has to do with an economic issue. Republicans and Democrats. And what the issue has to do with taxes. The Republicans would argue that the government should not tax to the bone, but rather citizens should pay very little tax, and that the taxes that citizens in the United States are paying should be reduced to the bare minimum. They argue that basically the issue is that if you don't tax people, don't tax corporations, then individuals and corporations would be able to save money. If they are able to save money, they can reinvest it into the economy. And if it is reinvested in the economy, it creates more jobs. Well, that's, a theoretical understanding on the part of the Republicans. Now, the Democrats are saying, no, look, you have individuals and you have got corporations. What exists already on the books, there are so many loopholes and there are so many tax breaks that exist that in the final analysis, when you have corporations that have got tax preparers, consultants, they are able to take advantage of those loopholes in the system where they pay very little tax to the state or to the federal government. So they're saying this is unfair. Democrats are saying everybody should pay their fair tax to the government, the federal government or state government. And the idea that you're going to save some money, reinvest it, that's, a dream, because in the final analysis, individuals save their money and put it in their pocket and not necessarily invest it into the economy, creating jobs. So we have got the Republicans, Democrats want to pay less taxes. The Democrats argue and actually propose that would be a flat tax. The flat tax, everybody has to pay it by somehow propose up to 25% of your income should be taxed. And there should be no exemptions, no loopholes, so that the state and the federal government would have enough money to support so many programs that are necessary for the continental United States of America.
Okay, and what about the issue of services? What are the differences between the two parties when it comes to education first, as well as healthcare?
Yeah, with your permission, before we start with education, the federal government and the state government are obliged to provide the necessary protection for the American people from foreign enemies and domestic enemies, from domestic troubles, and provide that necessary protection for the U.S. citizen. I don't think there is much difference between Democrats and Republicans, except that some would argue that there needs to be more spending on defense, and others would vary in the number of dollars to be spent on defense. But there seems to be an agreement to defend the continental United States. When you come back to issue of education, the Democrats are saying, those who are underprivileged, the state and the government, the federal government, should provide the necessary funding to allow all U.S. citizens access to education. So, already what exists in the United States, there are all kinds of colleges and, universities, state universities. There are also private universities, but those state colleges and state universities provide an education to American citizens at a very low cost. And for a few $100s per semester or per year, you are able to go and get your first degree, second degree, and that, in essence, the Democrats will argue that this is an asset that cannot be ignored at all, because the more you get the population educated, the more you are advanced in terms of development, progress, technology, and so forth, and modernize the state. Now, the Republicans are saying, look, the individuals who want to go to get a degree in a bachelor's degree or a master's degree or a PhD, they should pay their own way. You can borrow loans and pay for all your own way to go to universities. But, it's not easy to go for let's say, a master's degree and borrow the loans to repay it back. It would take you sometimes between a decade or 2 decades to pay it back.
Yeah.
So the question of education is critical and essential difference between the two. Then we can discuss the issue of healthcare. We remember we remember the famous Obamacare. And President Obama proposed that all American citizens, without exception, will have some kind of an insurance that will provide them with the necessary health care, and they don't have to suffer, or they don't have to suffer or ignore seeking health care because of their inability to pay for that expense. The Obamacare was accepted and by the U.S. House and Senate, but then again, when new administration came in, they introduced new changes in the legislation, and now it is an issue between Democrats and Republicans regarding the issue of health care and who qualifies for health care and who should pay for it. And not only that, but the issue of prescription drugs that are offered in the United States. So healthcare, we talked about education, healthcare, and then an important issue is the issue of religion. The Democrats consider the issue of religion as a personal matter, and it is your relationship with your God should stay as a relation between you and your God, private matter, and that religion should not be taught at state institutions or schools, primary schools, high schools, at universities. You should not indoctrinate, the citizens of the United States with a certain ideology or religion, but rather leave it up to the personal initiative to go to church or to whatever worship, a synagogue or a mosque or whatever. It is up to you. Now, you find that in the Republican Party, that issue is not seen in the same outlook. It's not seen in the same manner. But they view their presence, the relationship with the government, with the institutions, should be more related to religion, and your value system should be acceptable to most of the Republican vanguards that are in the United States. So, this is another issue. The last issue is that, services that are offered, like, for example, fire stations or civil defense, roads, networks, highways between the different states in the United States, airports, and, transportation system as in general. Who's going to pay for it? Is it the state or the individuals? Can we expect down the line in 10, 15 years that if you want to put a street in front of your house, you would have to pay for it and not the state? I mean, these are federal and state laws. Who should pay for them? This is an ongoing discussion on what kind of a relationship that should the individual have with the state and the federal government, and who pays for it. That's the key question.
Okay. Doctor, there's also one more issue that is controversial from the previous election, which is the issue of migration or illegal immigrants. Yeah. What do you think for the current election?
Well, the United States of America has always been dependent on immigration. For example, if you go like into the state of California, for example, in the area of the Silicon Valley, all right? In that area, in the Silicon Valley, you will find that there are literally tens of thousands of immigrants that come in from all over the world, Asia, from India, Pakistan, from the Middle East, and so forth. Those are, engineers, particularly in electronic engineering and other related fields. They are invited and they are allowed to apply for immigration. They come in. They are experts in their own fields. Housing is provided to them, great jobs, and so forth, so that they can contribute to the IT, technology, and innovation in the Silicon Valley area. They are bringing an important asset. During the Second World War, after the Second World War, German scientists were brought into the United States, and they contributed for the defense industry and so forth. Also laborers that are coming into the United States from all over the world have always been contributing, They work in the farms, in the factories, and so forth. And those are back-breaking jobs.
Yeah.
And they are there, they're earning an income, honest-to-God income. And, the United States is a country of immigrants. So, in a sense, should anybody argue, or anybody that argues that there should be no immigrants coming to the United States, that would be very interesting. But there should be some kind of regulation, a process whereby the individuals that will come in, they apply a legal form, they know their background and they assess it and so forth, and process through a scientific approach, and all individuals, depending on the need of the economy, and a process that there would be, control and a logical one,
Yeah.
So in reality, I think, the issue of immigration will continue to be there. They will always allow immigrants to go into the United States, but, you cannot expect that immigration, goes through turbulence whereby, a mother is separated from her child. This is unacceptable.
Yeah. And what about the issue of unemployment? And also one of the president candidates, which is Donald Trump, saying that immigrations are actually taking off jobs from the U.S.
In the last 4 years, actually, the job market has been great in the United States. And the last 4 years offered so many more jobs. Now, the world is changing and industries are changing. Basically, when we are talking about the United States, you're talking about a huge country. From coast to coast, if you fly from New York to San Francisco, it's 6 hours by plane. Mm-hmm. If you fly from the northern part, Canadian border to get to Mexico, it's 6 hours. It is a country that has tremendous resources. Anything that you can imagine, from natural resources to lakes to rivers to farmland and so forth, it is there. Now, the question is, everything needs to be regulated, but the continental United States is a huge country. And those who are, suggesting, and you hear this often for here and there, the United States is going to break up in 2 months or 3 months. They're going to go bankrupt. It's going to go bust. It is utter nonsense. The federal government of the United States has the capability and the resources and the know-how, the commitment and the vanguards to maintain this huge country that will continue to be for the next hundreds of years, United States of America, a very powerful country to reckon with.
All right. Professor, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, sir.
I can't help but notice a spider